What if I told you that the 10 minutes you spend scrolling news every morning is quietly doing something to your mood and you have never once noticed it? Not because you're not smart, but because nobody ever told you to look. Look, I get it. I do it too sometimes. You wake up, you grab your phone, you check what's happening in the world. It feels normal, it feels responsible, like you are a functioning adult who stays informed. Nobody questions it. Your parents did it with newspaper, your colleagues do it over tea or coffee. It's just what people do. And I'm not here to tell you are doing something wrong. I'm here to ask you one question that I don't think most people ever ask themselves. How do you feel after? Because I started paying attention to that, and what I noticed genuinely surprised me. It's not dramatic, that's the thing. It's not like you read a headline and burst into tears or spiral into an anxiety attack. It's much more subtle than that. It's just a slight heaviness, a low level tension, that a feeling like the world is a little more chaotic, a little more unsafe, a little more out of control than it was 5 minutes ago. And then you get up and make your coffee and go about your day, carrying that weight without even realizing you picked it up. And here's what makes it so easy to miss. Nothing personal happened to you. No one called you with that bad news. Nothing in your direct life changed. You just read about things happening to other people in other cities, in other countries, and somehow your nervous system responded as if it happened to you. It's not obvious, but once you notice it, it's consistent every single time. Now here's the part that actually explains why this happens, and it's simpler than you think. Your brain does not store information neutrally. When you read a fact, your brain processes it and largely moves on. But when you read something emotionally charged, conflict, danger, injustice, your brain flags it, it stores it, it holds on to it, because emotionally charged information to your nervous system looks like a threat. And your brain's entire job is to track threats. News media knows this. This is not a conspiracy theory. It's just economics. Content that triggers an emotional response gets more clicks, more time on screen, more engagement. So over decades, news has gradually optimized itself around urgency and alarm. The headline that makes you feel slightly anxious outperforms the one that doesn't every single time. So you're not weak for being affected by it, you're just human. Your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem is that it was built for a world where threats were local and occasional, not global and continuous and delivered to the screen in your hand every 30 seconds. Now, whether you explain this through psychology, neuroscience, or something a little more philosophical, the patterns point to the same place. Your attention is not neutral. Whatever you point it at consistently for long enough starts to shape how you feel by default. Not overnight, but gradually, like the difference between 1 drop of ink and 100 drops of ink in a glass of water. Most people never think about where their attention is going. They just let it follow wherever is the loudest. And in a world designed to be loud, news, social media, outrage, drama, that means most people's attention is being quietly pulled towards everything they don't want to be thinking about. There's an idea I find really interesting, and I'm going to put it in plain terms because it doesn't need to be complicated. If you could put just 50% of your attention on what you want rather than what you don't want, your life would start to feel fundamentally different. Not 100%, not some perfect monk level discipline, just slightly more than half. Think about what news consumption actually does to the ratio. Every morning before you have even had breakfast, you are loading your attention with everything that's going wrong in the world. Conflict, corruption, disaster, crisis, and none of it is something you can do about. You're not solving any of it by watching it. You are just absorbing it. And here's the uncomfortable part. Some people consume bad news so consistently and resist the idea of not consuming it so strongly that it becomes their default lens. Everything starts to look a little more dangerous, more hopeless. Not because that's reality, but because that's what their attention has been trained to see. The thing is, nobody's forcing you to watch it. Just because it's on, just because everyone around you is watching, doesn't mean you have to. You could be taking a walk, watching something that makes you laugh, calling someone you care about. You are not contributing anything meaningful to the world's problem by staring at them for 40 minutes before work. You're just absorbing the emotional weight of them. Here's another thing worth thinking about. Most of us were taught that being informed is responsible, that staying updated is a sign of being a serious, thoughtful adult. And there's a version of that which is true. Being completely disconnected from reality isn't the answer either. You can know what's happening in the world in 5 minutes. A quick scan of headlines, maybe one article that's actually relevant to your life. That's being informed. What most people do is something else. It's compulsive scrolling, looping news cycles, the same story refreshed 12 times, argument threads, reaction videos. That's not information. That's emotional consumption, and it has a cost. The cost is your baseline state. The cost is the quiet background anxiety that you have started to think of as just how life feels. The cost is the fact that your attention, the most valuable thing you have, is being spent on things that leave you slightly worse every single time. I'm not telling you to stop watching news. I'm not telling you to disconnect from the world and live in a bubble. That's not my point. The point is just to notice. Notice what your attention is doing. Notice how you feel before and after. Notice whether what you're consuming is actually serving you or whether it's just a habit you never examined. Because most people never observe that part. They just keep going day after day, wondering why they feel this low level heaviness that they can't quite explain. Your attention is shaping your experience whether you direct it consciously or not. The only question is, are you the one deciding where it goes? That's something worth sitting with.